Mexico City fielding the next part of this particular. We're back. Hello. Mexico City fielding the next part of this championship over here for the V1 Malta series, as now we're going to be taking a trip from what was a very intense set of races over in the Middle East, now over to the Americas, as now myself and Adam Reed alongside me will take you around what is no doubt going to be a circuit that could be the one that sets the wheels in motion for who could be the champion here, especially after last week's results, Adam. Thanks for being alongside us for this one. We should be in for an absolute cracker here. Daniel Chinny managed to come out on top in the end, didn't he? After a fabulous result over in the Bahrain. But Andrea Borg took it in behind by just over a second. But the gap between the front of these two and Williams with David Mifsford was enormous, which is setting themselves out for what will no doubt be now a two-horse race for this championship.
Hi, James. Absolutely. We're going to be in for an absolute thriller here in Mexico. The stakes have never been as high as they currently sit now. And those current race results only just set what is a part of the scene that we're going to be taking place. We're going to be taking to the old baseball stadium at the Foro Sol. Yes, we're heading to Mexico City. Round 8 of the championship. Round 7. I got my rounds confused, it seems like. But you can just have a look at the results there. David Mifsud getting a strong result. Matthew Kassar getting a good, strong place, 4th place. But he does now sit, that's 16 points back in the championship. We will have a look in the moment. Michael Mr. McMullen there in 5th, followed by Simeon Necheb, Jake Meliak, and then Emerson Saab going on further down in towards the championship standing. This is where it starts to get a little bit tasty here. Andrea Borg will lead the championship, but only by 3 points. He's had a good set of races the last two, maybe like the last 4 rounds. Has not won since Budapest. That will be an important factor for Andrea Borg. Daniel Chinny at 91, Matthew Kassar starting to fall a little bit back on 78. And the question I think we asked at the end of last week's broadcast: has David Mifsud received an invite for that final championship 4? Will he be able to put his nose in the battle? We'll have to see, because he is here tonight, unlike his teammate Michael McMullen, who does now sit on 57 points despite moving up past Simeon Necheb. Alexander Galea, they're up there in 7th, followed by Emerson Zab and Samuel Borg with Neil Kassar rounding out the top 10. And then we'll look further down and see how this all kind of pans out. But yeah, trust me, it's going to be pretty spicy just from this screen.
Yeah, just from that one as well. Of course, last regional champion as well, all the way down in P7 at the moment in the championship. Williams have got a little bit of a healthy lead now over Ferrari in 133 versus 107. Opportunity for Ferrari to close up the gap, though, as you rightfully point out, Adam, because Michael Mifsud McMullen not taking part for Williams here tonight. So opportunity for Ferrari to potentially claw back some points. Alpine on 94 from Mercedes on 82, Kick Sauber on 71, McLaren on 50, Racing Bulls 43, Red Bull finally manages to get off the foot of the table up to 15 with Aston Martin on 11. Haas, which has been pretty much fielding only reserve drivers, and today have no exception. They are yet to score. But I said, round number 7 of 8 takes part here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, as we should be taking what will be, no doubt, a very intense lap around here, because it is, of course, high up in the mountains, actually well known for the Alpine Renault engine to be particularly potent around here. But, of course, with equal cars, that completely thrown out the window, and it is all about now the ability of the drivers out on the circuit. Elevation, not really known around here, so it is all going to be around about that second sector. We're talking turns 7 through 11. That's pretty much where all the lap time can be gained or lost here, Adam. So question for you on this one is, who's the person in form going into this one? Because if it was up to me, I'd be saying Chinny, despite the fact he's 3 points behind, might be the one to keep an eye on here tonight.
I think you're right on that one. He's 2 wins in the last 2 races. That equivalates to 50 points. Meanwhile, Andrea Borg in the last 2 races only 18. There's a massive difference, and yeah, it's going to be massively interesting. You know, Daniel Chinny with 3 wins at the moment, he's got that in his back pocket. He has the momentum coming into the championship, but it's just been Andrea Borg who's been super consistent. You know, second, first, third, second, DNF second. That's exactly what you need, and especially when Chinny has had a DNF, a 4th place, and an 8th place in that. You know, that's not quite the consistency he's been asking for, but want to focus more a little bit maybe on those kind of 2 outsiders of Matthew Kassan, David Mifsud. David Mifsud's not quite been there. Only two kind of two podiums, those being third. But he has been, his lowest finish has been fifth in Spielberg. That is absolutely incredible for David Mifsud, a super consistent driver, and that's what he needs. But he just hasn't had that extra fiery edge to get involved with those championship contenders. And of course, a couple of things to kind of note: 2 times off the podium plus a DNF for Matthew Kassar. I think I have to agree with you. Daniel Chinny's the one to kind of fight on this one, but with qualifying coming up, I think we already know who's going to be potentially on top of that one, and his name is Andrea Borg. Only once has he missed out on pole position. That was all the way back at Zandvoort, the season opener.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen here. As I said, Altadramo Hernandez Rodriguez should be in for an absolute cracker in just a few short moments of the V1 Malta Series. Don't go away. Qualifying, it will be with us in just a few short moments. Welcome back to Velocity Esports and the V1 Malta Series. This is a particularly interesting set of events. Of course, only 14 drivers are racing here tonight. Of course, a big wheel of drivers not taking part in this particular championship, or this particular race, rather. Obviously, we're missing out, rather, on the current regional champion, Alexander Galea. He's not taking part, so his teammate is on his own tonight, is Isaac Barbara. And then down the field as well, of course, it looks like we've lost the other Mercedes driver as well. I think Ilwide goes by. He's probably gone for a little nap, hasn't he? He'll be not taking part in this particular one. And then down the field, of course, Emerson Zarb taking past his teammate, though, in the Racing Bulls, not with him tonight. As we said, Michael Misford McMullen not taking part in the Williams either for the constructors, currently in the lead of this championship. And over at Kick Sauber, we've also only got Simeon Neshchev on his own. But a big shout out to our reserve drivers, 12 for tonight as well. Daniel Galea, who takes part in the Haas tonight. He will be the sole Haas driver, a team that is known just for its reserve drivers and yet to score a point. Maybe an opportunity to score a point here tonight for Daniel Galea and over at Haas, because this is a circuit that is known for its overtaking. Turn 1 being probably the spot we're going to keep an eye out on, as we're keeping an eye out on Simeon Neshchev in the moment in the cleanly liveried, rather, Kick Sauber for this particular event. Of course, the latest update has seen some livery changes. This one looking particularly potent.
Yeah, really nice livery to see what Sauber have been up to. Into these early stages of qualifying, I think the drivers are just going to try and get themselves up into a rhythm, and then see if they can potentially lay the rubber down on the racetrack, and then just experiment, see if they can just experiment with the line, see if there's anything they can gain an advantage here and there. But I think it's going to be Simeon Neshchev to come over the line first off the Alpine, moves over to the side, and Sauber heads in toward the old baseball stadium. So we'll have to see how that all kind of works out here in towards the final corner. Simeon Neshchev will make his way to the line. What's the lap time going to be? 1:15.948. Not too bad there for Simeon Neshchev. I don't think the team has gone pretty well around here. We'll see what David Mifsud can do. He does a 1:15.1. That's a brilliant lap time. And we'll have to see how that all kind of pans out. Again, Williams, another team that really hasn't gone well around here. It's only had one podium, and that was back at season 5 with Brandon Bonello. So they'll be hoping to try and maybe get something out of this. I don't suspect it's going to be a podium, but potentially a top 5. is looking to be quite interesting. I think that might be what they're aiming for here. Over the line comes Keith Muscat's 116.8. So a couple of mistakes are being made out here. Maybe some high fuel runs as we now see the championship runner-up here, Daniel Chinny, as he knocks over one of the bollards. He's heading in towards that final corner and on towards the line here to try and set his first time lap. Is it going to be a 1:15? It's a 1:14.857. Big moment there for Daniel Chinny, and he's already laying his marker down on this qualifying session. But what about his championship rival?
Andrea Borges then is trying his hardest as well to put at least some distance between him and Daniel Chinny. The gap only 3 points. Where's the Alpine Renault going to come as he comes across the line? He is behind him, and he is behind him by what would be a considerable margin, actually, to be fair, of exactly 0.2 of a second. So again, Daniel Chinny just getting the edge at the moment on the championship leader, and that Ferrari is looking particularly potent here tonight. Here is the other, and the final rather, racing bull, the only racing bull, Emerson Zarb. Now he is wanting to try. Look, his form is up and down at the moment, his Zarb. Sometimes it can be up there, other times he is really down the field. So where is Milanis going to put himself here then? It's a 56.5 in the second sector. It's not particularly quick from the Racing Bull. He'll chuck the car through the left-hander. Buckets of understeer going through into the stadium section. Not looking confident on the front at all is that number 15 Racing Bull as he then approaches the start-finishing line, and he will set himself initially into the 1:16s. Well down the order from him. We're going to see some other lap times as well. Adam Korzecki himself is the number 2 Aston Martin, looking to try and at least set some kind of precedent for Aston Martin here. It's been a very absent, I would say, sort of championship for them, and he sets the slowest of all lap times so far, 1:17.9, well off the pace from Adam Korzecki, his teammate, yet to leave the pits. But as it stands so far then, it looks like to me exactly what happened over in Bahrain will continue over in Mexico. Daniel Chinny has got just the edge at the moment on the championship leader, and what a time to have it with only 2 rounds to go.
Indeed, just want to go back down to Aston Martin because the Silverstone based team only had their best score of, I believe it was Christian Kurmi, who finished home in 7th at Zandvoort Reverse. So that was the highest point scoring for the team. Since then, they've only 2 points as their maximum. That was at round 2 at Budapest and round 4 at Monza. So I don't really suspect too much, but when there's only 4 cars that can finish outside of the points and expected DNF, who can say, who's going to say here they won't be able to get a points finish here? Just as long as you keep on the racetrack, avoid the carnage, I think you should be just fine. But 11 minutes left to go in this session. Still Daniel Chinny ahead of Andrea Borges, but we know how much Andrea Borges does like to say, whilst Daniel Chinny is straight away, I think, put the majority of his cards down. He's just waiting for that one more to kind of put on the table before then kind of releasing the full pack. And then he'll be able to kind of go for that full-out run in the final run and see how we go. But yeah, good one from David Liston there in P3. What about Jake Meliak, who's going to be in P4? I think Saab running down there in P5. He hasn't had the best in terms of qualifying, but we'll have to see how that all kind of works out, because we still have multiple runs left as he is sitting in the pits, maybe just doing a few adjustments to that Mercedes AMG. And look at that Christian Kermy just jumping and hopping over the sausage curves at the first corner there. I think he's just taking it super aggressive, but I don't think that's the fastest way to get around that corner as he heads in towards the second chicane here. It's pretty difficult through that section, but he does set a purple first sector here.
Yeah, Christian Kermy looking to just try and set some kind of lap time on the board for Aston Martin here that can be somewhat competitive. His teammate well down the field, as we said, with that 1:17.939. I'm keeping a very firm eye, though, on the Sol Williams here tonight, though, of Dave Misford once again into P3 in what is a direct replica of the front 3, of course, last time out in Bahrain. So Autotromo Hernandez Rodriguez proving to be, not that much of a challenge for the front 3 at the moment as they maintain the status quo. We'll see, though, where this man then, Christian Kermy, is going to come across the line. Will he be able to get above his teammates? At least he comes across the line right now. He does get into 11th place with a 1:16.9. Heading over to the Red Bull, looks like he's on an in lap, though, to be fair, is Jake Koz. That is into the Red Bull of Jake Malak. Simeon Nechchev coming across the line, 1:15.948 to get started with his lap, looking to try and set a lap time a bit closer to the 1:14 if he can help it. Well, he's going to touch in the grass. Is not going to help though, as he chucks the car in the right. Car not helpful and not liking that set of corners as he chucks the car through 3. We'll see how the Kick Sauber reacts to get off the curb, and they're much nicer off the exit. We'll see where Sector 1 split is, but I don't think it's going to be particularly competitive. As he comes across the line right now, he has found a tenth of a second, but 27.8 is not competitive at the moment for the Kick Sauber runner. If you don't mind, I'd actually like to have a quick conversation and have a quick look, as my phone's just decided to start ringing, weirdly, as we're looking at Daniel Chinny, if you don't mind, because Daniel Chinny has just started his lap as he approaches into turn number 1. What's the situation then for Daniel Chinny for this one? Just keep up the pace, keep up this consistency, because if anything, he's got a lot to go by at the moment and looking particularly strong.
He is indeed. Again, we'll have to see how this kind of race night goes, because he's been a driver that's been superb over the last couple of maybe seasons as well. Really taking his experiences and really improved on them. It's been absolutely brilliant to see kind of what he's been going about with, heading towards that kind of middle sequence of corners, really trying to get that car rotated through some of the corners. Unfortunately, he has invalidated his lap time, so he's just trying to get all the battery back, and then he'll go and set another lap time. Meanwhile, Andrea Borg just struggling out of turn number 5 to get that car out of the corner, because he's so low in the rev range. He's just trying not to spin up the tyres, and then just trying to plant it up in towards the next right-hander. Such a difficult task to do, so you kind of just, you don't want to be bogging, but you don't want to be lighting up the rear tyres as well. He set the purple in the second sector, so it's Chinny from Mifsud, from Forge, from Neliak, from Cassard, from Nechev, Zard, Muscat, Dimech, and I believe, Barbara, the top 10 there. What about Andrea Borg? Would he go to the top? He does not. He's 6 thousandths of a second faster, but still not quite there. Still a little bit off here into the dying stages of this qualifying session, but there will still be enough for one more run. Less than 7 minutes remaining.
Yeah, Andrea Borg having an absolutely awful final corner. He just could not get any rear-end grip, and he's just turning the car left and right to try and find some comfort on the rear end of that car. But he stays P3 as Misford now goes to P2 and is the only one of 2 drivers now into the 1:14. It's a great effort from Daniel Chinny, by the way, with a 1:14.857, manages to put a tiny little bit of distance against Misford. And I tell you what a great situation it is actually for Dave Misford, because if he can capitalise and get another podium here, he might be able to defend from a Ferrari outfit and actually damage limitate. Wrong side of the bollard there, my dear friend, is Emerson Czar, but I don't think he'll get into trouble for it in this particular league, but yeah, frowned upon within reality. Here is the other Alpine. Don't be discredited of Aaron Dimesh. He will be in the midfield tonight. He dives into the pit lane right side of the bollard on this occasion. He now chucks his car in. Here's the sole McLaren of Isaac Barbara. Now it's an opportunity for him to show his worth here tonight as well, because no regional champion at his by his side here. So as a sole McLaren, no pressure from a teammate. He'll dive into the pit lane as well. So outlaps just starting to come in, and the first person to set this outlap actually coming out quite early is Jake Malak. And that'll probably because he didn't find any comfort on his last lap, because of course it was invalidated.
Indeed, we'll have to see how that all kind of works out here. Melyak, of course, with the Red Bull team, scored a 4th place finish last time around at Sakia. My mistake, got an 8th place. Let me just correct that, because I've got on my spreadsheet, he's got 4 points rather than 4th place. Goes over the line to start his lap time and blasts his way down that main straight, top out about 205 miles an hour before smacking the brake pedal, trying to lift it off, get it rotated in towards turn number 1, turn number 2, get the body roll through some of the corners, cut a little bit as much as you can, try and get away with it as well. But yeah, he's the majority in the pit, so he's grabbing a lovely slipstream for the only other car out there at this moment in time, 55 thousandths of a second up, and he has gone purple, but not ideal through that second right-hander. That could have been a little bit worrying through that sequence, and then he'll ride on board with the Red Bull. He heads in towards this section very quick through that first sequence. Had to cut a little bit, but that is the shortest way through the corner. really, really pushing it, and really you can see
Well
how much
handled.
he's working on the steering wheel. Well handled in that one indeed. He's almost 0.3 of a second up here, so a late contender here for pole position as he now starts to really crank on the lock around the hairpin. We seem to be responding very well under the control here of Jake Meliak, and with less than 4 minutes to go left of the session, he'll
Could be close,
up
this.
to the line. This is going to be a pole position lap with a 1:14.704. Beat that, he says to everyone else.
Yeah, but he was a bit out of sync with everyone else, so the track is not at its best. Here is the other Ferrari here of Samuel Borges. He's the slowest of anyone so far, still in the 1:17s at the moment. Not a representative lap time at all from the Ferrari. Chucks the car through the right, left, and then the right-hander. Much more opportunity to get time out of that corner by a country mile, I think, from Samuel Borges. We'll see what his Sector 1 split is like in comparison. He's only found 36 thousandths of a second, so actually he's going to be only potentially looking at P13, P12 at the moment. Oh, a very bad exit as well coming out of that one. So he's the only person on a lap at the moment, but I do want to take a trip, if you don't mind, to P5, because Matthew Cassar himself on an outlap at the moment. Right, let's be honest, it's been a topsy-turvy season, best described as the most inconsistent runner of those in the top three in the championship at the moment. Is Cassar's championship hopes now done and dusted? I would say so. So what has he got to learn over the next couple of rounds here? Has he got to just try and capitalise on a P3 finish? Has he got to try and keep up the pressure on Mifsud? Because as it stands so far, he's not even going to get third place in the title hunt at the moment.
Right on that one, they've scored the exact same amount of points in the last two races. It's just Mifsud. If he had on a third race, that goes to Monza, where Matthew Cassar had that DNF, and then David Misford managed to finish home fourth. So, yeah, Matthew Cassar, at this moment in time, I think he just needs to stamp an authority down for next season, kind of say, win at Abu Dhabi and just say, you know, I'm going to be the guy to beat next year. That's exactly what you need to be doing. But, you know, never say never in this championship. Really see and just keep an eye on Andrea Borges and Daniel Cini. I'm sure he'll be working continuously, ferociously, to see if he could potentially just maybe mount a championship challenge and just get any more kind of advantage for what he can possibly do here. So we'll go over the line and start a new lap time here. And these are going to be the last moments here in qualifying to make the dash down into Water number 1. You've just seen there, I think Meliak has returned to the pits. We've still got Andrea Borges on his outlap, so he's going to leave it very, very late.
Yeah, Malak, I think, is consolidated the position. He's run out of tyres now, has Jake Costa, where there's no point in him coming out there unless he decides to put a use set. So he's going to just hope that that 1:14.7 is good enough. Meanwhile, Matthew Cassar has matched his first sector. He's actually just a little bit slower, if you go into the semantics of it, by about 0.06 of a second. What's his turn right? That's not a bad right-hander, to be fair. Car looks relatively planted. This is where you need to be at your best here. They could have taken a bit more of that curb on that corner, could cost him a little bit more time here, could Cassar, as he chucks the car to the right, then the left, perfectly balanced there, through the DRS zone, he will go. What's his sector 2 split like? That's more like it, about 0.3 of a second has been found, and he's in fact gone purple in the second sector as well. So has he just decided to just ease off a little bit, try not to overwork the tyres? It's not a very good exit out of that corner though. That'll be a 10th or so lost on this one here, so it'll be a question of what if here for Cassar. Ideally it'd be in the 1:14s, but he's going to be a 1:15.198 in the end. Here's Daniel Cini. Here he wants to try and get pole position. Can he get it straight out of Malak's hands? He will not. He's missed out by 5 thousandths of a second on his fastest lap here. That is critical. Andrea Borges is only 35 thousandths up in the first sector alone. And again, that front is just not looking sharp at all for Mifsud. Where is Andrea Borges in all of this one here? Can we go to a P4, please? Because I'm interested to see where Borges is. He's just in front at the moment of Mifsud. So this is where it's going to be all critical here now between the pair of them, just behind Mifsud rather. These front third and fourth place now have got an opportunity to potentially capitalise on what was a pretty poor lap actually from Daniel Chinny's standards as he chucks the car through the left-hander. Where is Mifsford in all of this, please, folks? P3 is where I'd like to have a look because I think he's just in front. He's just in the arena at the moment. Chucks the car through the right-hander and then through this final right-hander, of course, that's when Bottas infamously crashing here. Chucks the car through the right-hander, then will the Williams Mercedes get anywhere near the front? He goes to pole, does the Williams with a 1:14.4. Where's Andrea Borg in all of this? V4, please. Where is he? He's diving into the pit lane. Can you believe it? In this one, it looks like to me it's all going to be all done and dusted. I think we've got a new pole position sitter, and it looks like Williams. Doesn't matter if they've only got one driver here tonight. Looks like Misford is on his way to pole. Here he comes to the right hand of the Simeon Nechted. Not the best exit. Bucket of understeer. Where's he going to come across? P6 in the end for the Kick Sauber. Well indeed. Here's Adam Koshecki. Aston Martin invalid laps. He'll finish with a 16.6. Well, there it is. David Misford's on pole from Jake Nailak. Would you believe, actually, it's a second row lockout from the two championship leaders, Matthew Kasari and P5 behind all of this one. So, the front three could not find all the pace that they needed.
Wow, that was absolutely mega. You know, if you told me before this broadcast that we'd be having a front row of David Misford and Jake Meliak, I would have laughed in your face. Well, it's happened. The two championship contenders start on the second row. Yeah, I think what I just saw there was just through the middle sector. I don't think Andrea Borg got the run that he wanted, and just as you switch there to David Mifsud, it flashed up that he was 3 seconds down. So there are your results: Mifsud from Meliak, from Chinny, from Borg, with Kassar and Nechev, with Keith Muscat and Emerson Zav, Christian Kermi ahead of Isaac Barbara to round the fifth row of the grid. Then we move on to Aaron Demek ahead of Adam Koreshi, Daniel Galea, and running off the grid will be Samuel Borsch. This is going to be absolutely mighty.
Yeah, should be an absolute cracker. We'll be back in just a few short moments for the more continued coverage of this race. Welcome back to V1 Malta and the Velocity Esports channel. We should be in for an absolute crack of a race here. If anything, if that qualifying has got anything to go by. Mifsford on pole position then makes no difference to Williams if they've only got one driver or two. Fastest man so far out there at the moment is David Mifsford. He's looking so sharp here tonight. Jake Malak on the second time of asking, getting an absolute cracking lap in as well to get in front of the two championship hopefuls, Daniel Chinny, Andrea Borg, and then Matthew Cassar in P5. The challenge for him, though, is the person that he's fighting with in the championship is on pole. It is myself, James Otto, alongside Adam Reed here for this event here in Mexico. Very quickly on this one then, Adam. David Mifsud on pole. Daniel Chinny is still in front of Andrea Borg, though, but Chinny has got a lot more to lose as it stands, as does Andrea Borg and those in front.
Absolutely. I'm really looking to see what that top kind of 5 can do. But you know what? Actually, I'll make that a top 6. Do not discount Chinny on Nechev. But yeah, the entire top 6 is what you're looking for, because you'll get the run all the way down towards turn number 1. So technically, could Chinny or Borg be at an advantage here, because they'll instantly get the toe, probably pass about 100 miles an hour or so. Then we'll have, yeah, of course, that front two where Jake Meliak will probably put himself and point himself right in the toe track, in the wheel tracks of David Mifsud. But David Mifsud is one to really watch. He is the most recent winner here in Mexico. He won last season when he was with Alpine. Switching over to Williams. Can he go back to back?
That is going to be the critical question, of course, after a fabulous win last time out. Will he be able to do exactly the same thing? The drivers are getting themselves lining up on the grid for what will be no doubt a very intense Mexico City Grand Prix, our penultimate round of the V1 Malta Series, as this now hosted at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. We should be in for an absolute cracker of a race with those lights counting down. The drivers are roaring their engines. No more waiting, let's go racing here then in Mexico, and David Mifsud getting a decent start, but Jake Malak getting an even better one straight down the inside in the second phase and immediately jumps the Williams. A great effort from the Red Bull. Here comes Daniel Chinny as well, who wants to try and get the both of them. He's going to get a lovely toe here, could go for the double if he wants to, side by side through there. No, very well crafted from the Ferrari man who doesn't want to battle too hard. Very well, excellently taken from Mifsud, though. He retakes the lead of this race from Malak after all of that one. Here comes the Ferrari as well, who's still wanting to put pressure here on Malak. Is he going to go for it down the inside? I wonder. It might be, you know. Side by side they will go with the people in B2 and B3. Oh. Malak is still in there. Is there going to be a triangle between the pair of them? Here comes Simeon Nechev, and Jake Cos is in the wall. That's it for him. He was in P2 at one point, now down at the back. Andrea Borg now in front of Daniel Chinny after all of that one as well. Cracking stuff. Has there been any damage on the front of the Ferrari? I wonder. We'll see. Either way, Simeon Nechev in P4 from Matthew Cassar. Then you've got the other Red Bull there, the other Red Bull of Keith Muscat now up to P6 as well, which is a benefit from him, and then Emerson Zarb rounding out the top 7.
Oh, that's going to be massive there. I suspect Daniel Chinny might get a post-race penalty for that one. He just kind of stuck his nose in and then didn't really do too much with it. But again, that will be something we have to look back at. Front wing damage there for Jake Meliak. So realistically, he's come off worse from that, and what was going to be a potential P1 going here, it turns out he's now down in P last. Meanwhile, Daniel Chinny is right in the back here of Andrea Borg. There's more bashing there in the background. That seems to be the Christian Kurmi, and it might even be the Keith Muscat maybe getting past Matthew Cassar. There's a little tussle there, and the Mercedes just gets absolutely hip and shouldered out of that little tussle. And Cassar now starting to feel a bit of pressure here, because his mind might think that he's still in the championship battle when, you know, potentially it might be that it's all done and dusted here. With Mifsud, I think he might be hoping that those two behind just continue to do battle, and they're right here in your picture frame.
Well, that's a critical thing now as well, because of course Matthew Cassar's strongest battle is with David Mifsud, who's currently winning this race, and of course this is one of his strongest tracks, is the Williams outfit, and what is actually a valiant defence at the moment for Williams, because despite all of this, and despite the fact that they're down one driver, if the race were to finish as it was, they are going to continue to outscore Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship as a result of this, which is just mind-blowing performance from Williams. Andrea Borg is being, let's be honest, is a bit of a blockade at the moment to Daniel Chinny. He knows he's the faster driver, but he just can't get that move done. So much so, fastest lap of this race. He knows he needs to get this one done. He'll use overtake. He wants to get past his Alpine Renault as quickly as possibly can. Down the inside, heading into turn one. It looks like it's going to be clear cutting and easy trimmings for the Ferrari man as he now gets his way up back into P2 as he tries to chase down David Mifsford, but the gap of around about 1 second at the moment means that the Ferrari man is going to have to utilise all of this DRS as much as he can to try and get back into a raceable position with a man who started on pole.
Again, these are all going to be questions that we're going to be figuring out all throughout this race here. Keith Muscat now, again, still passing with Matthew Cassar. I think Cassar has just been struggling this tonight here. He's just really not seemed to have got with the grips of the Mexican GP circuit. I think that's going to really just insinuate a struggling kind of mode here for him. I mean, when we look further down, Christian Kurmi, who was batting away down the main straight, we saw a couple of laps ago. He is now currently just trying to fend off, it seems like, a yellow flag, and that's going to be for Adam Qureshi, it seems like. I think he's had a spin in the middle sector and front wing damage indeed. So very lucky to not bring out a virtual safety car or a full safety car in that instance, as we see also Daniel Galea is up to P11, so that could insinuate potential points here. But now we see Daniel Chinny now going here on Daniel Mifsud. He's made the move. Will Andrea Borg try and follow? He's going to swoop it all the way around the outside, and a fantastic maneuver there from Daniel Chinny. And now Mifsud sees him drop from first all the way down to third. He's just got to keep with the pressure, and that's not what he wanted in his script. But now the front two in the championship now find themselves 1 and 2 on the racetrack, and this could be very much a moment in the title battle where it just twists and turns ever more, where Borg has been leading the majority of the way, but this late form from Daniel Chinny has been absolutely mega. Remember, he retired at the opening race in Zandvoort. Who would have thought around 7 he would be net leading at this stage?
Yeah, as it stands, Daniel Chinny will be leading this championship as well with this particular situation. So the Ferrari man will be hoping he could just hold his station as we've lost someone. It looks like one of the Ferraris has gone for a spin. Keith Muscat has gone for a spin here, and he's going to invite a few people around here as well. There goes Ron Skids, the other Ferrari as well. Oh, getting the move done on the Haas. Just needed to dive out of the way of a very slow Red Bull. Daniel Chinny setting the fastest lap of this race, but of course he's going to have people with all of the tyre advantage here, as Andrea Borg will retake the lead of this race under DRS. If we could have the director be a little bit helpful here, if you don't mind, just whack on the tyres for us, because it'd be interesting to see what the tyre situation is for everyone, because this is where it's going to get interesting. Andrea Borg is on the inverse strategy on the hard tyre, and he's quite quick at the moment here. And if he's looking quick on the hard tyre, what's it going to be like when he switches over to a medium tyre in around about... Ooh, if my math works it out right, I think that's going to be about 16 to 17 laps for that. And if that is the situation, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you here. Andrea Borg has got one hand on this potential winner's trophy.
Yeah, that's going to be the way to go. I think that Daniel Chinny needs to bring that gap around to less than 7 points. So he's going to have to win this one and put himself in the championship hunt, because next time around we'll have a 2-week break, but we will then find ourselves heading to Abu Dhabi for the final round of this championship. And my word, it is going to be a massively spicy affair around the Yas Marina circuit. Andrea Borg is going to set the fastest lap, so maybe doing a little bit of tyre nursing. Looks like Jamie Aliak is now found himself back up into the top 10, trying to challenge here, which seems like Samuel Borg. Oh, and again, the car is just wiggling away. It's fishtailing through some of the corners. It just looks like nothing. The opposite is stable. It just seemed like a loosey-goosey absolutely everywhere. And we now look forward here as we now see Simeon Nechev now starting to gain off the back of David Mifsud. So I wonder if the tyre maybe wear is a little bit high on that Williams. We see the battle going on here, and we see again Borg is now feeling the pressure. This time around he's going to go defensive, but with the DRS active on that Red Bull car, straight up into ninth place and seeing what you can salvage. It might even be a bit of damage limitation to the rear. Decides to go walkabouts.
Yeah, it looks like actually off the back of the Ferrari there of Samuel Borges, he's actually just collided ever so gently with the back of Jake Malak and got caught him off guard a little bit. First penalty of the day going to the Red Bull there of Keith Muscat for a 3-second time penalty. That's for track extension issues. Leader is still Andrea Borges, gap 1.4 to Daniel Chinny. Now the gap has just started to stagnate a little bit here. Now the front three are out of DRS of each other, so the nearest DRS battle's actually still between the likes of the Ferrari of Samuel Borges and Jake Malak for P9 and 10. But as it stands, this is where the big battle is. At the front of the field, as you can see there, looks like a gap of around about 1 second between the pair of them. The gap is still at the front, though. Andrea Borges from Daniel Chinny, gap 1.5. I'm wondering now if there's potentially a two-stop on the cards here, because the medium tyres seem to be falling off relatively quickly, then coming back and falling again. So it looks like a bit of tyre inconsistency out on circuit. Track starting to warm up, though. With the sun now coming out on circuit, that will only benefit, though, the hard tyre runner, because, of course, he'll have the better traction out of the corners on a harder compounded tyre, while the mediums will start to burn through. So it'd be a horrible scenario if he decided to switch over to a soft tyre. Oh dear, Daniel Galea's done exactly that.
Yeah, he seems like he's maybe just trying to get a bit of pace out of the soft tyre, because he was really struggling in those with those tyres he currently had on. But again, I think he's just trying to change the strategy, go quick and see if he can gain anything out of it. But this rate, he's over 20, almost 28 seconds behind any form of point scoring finish here. So unless he manages to gain that amount of time, catches up in terms of the pit stops. I don't know how that's going to go over there for the Haas driver, because remember, he is pretty much the sole driver for the Haas F1 team. We have Raymond Borges, who's only competed in 2 rounds, that being at Zandvoort and Spielberg, but ever since then he's not really been around. So yeah, Haas have been really struggling with drivers here. And I just kind of wonder if that maybe be able to pay off. But again, I can only see them lasting 6 laps at a maximum. That's going to be really tough for him. We look further forward again. Matthew Cassar, again, trying to work here on his own. It seems like he's got no DRS assist, and he's kind of just sitting in a bit of, I don't know, it's not really no man's land, because there's still drivers around him. But again, he's really at a stalemate, it seems like. He's not being able to push forward. He's not really being pushed back into the likes of Emerson Saab here. But look at Andrea Borges' pace. Has been absolutely mighty. That's exactly what he needs, because if things were to end like this, he would go into Abu Dhabi with a 10-point lead in the championship.
Yeah, and that, of course, would mean he'd need to finish on the podium to take the title, because regardless of what happens, if he takes P3 and then Daniel Chinny was to finish on the top step, I think Andrea Borges would still win on countback. So it's all about making sure he finishes on the podium, which is what he's been doing pretty much consistently all this season. As Andrea Borges, here's Matthew Cassar as we've got another 3-second time penalty, this time for the other Ferrari there of Samuel Borges. Here is Christian Kermin now coming into the pits here to switch off of the tyres. The first of the scheduled pit stops. It looks like it is going to be a pretty clear 2-stop race for this race, especially with the medium tyres falling as quickly as they are at the moment for Daniel Chinny. Andrea Borges pulling a gap of around about 3 seconds. I think Chinny will be considering his tyres pretty imminently, if we're honest here, because David Misford is getting pretty close. He's Simeon Nechchev on the older tyres as well, actually getting onto the back of David Misford, whose tyres have really fallen completely off a cliff. Has the man who, remember, won this race last time out. So is he going to try and commit to the undercut, knowing that he's going to be the faster driver, but then knowing he has to commit to the second pit stop earlier? Maybe a medium hard stint. Has he got an extra set of hards available? Of course, if you pre-selected balanced or soft as your tyre compound, you are in trouble if you want to try and commit to the double hard stint. We'll see, though. Anyone going to be diving into the pit lane? Well, no, Andrea Borges certainly isn't. He comes across the line, no issue. Daniel Chinny stays out, as does Misford, as does Nechchev.
Yeah, so interesting to see how the strategy is going to come into play. Matthew Cassar has decided to go for an early switch here. He's going to come off those medium compound tyres on towards the hard. So let's see if they can last about 26 up. They should be able to. Daniel Chinny, 3-second time penalty for track limits there. 4 seconds off. I think those tyres are starting to go a little bit. So I think what he's going to need to do now is make that pit stop is the only way to try and maybe find a bit of time on Andrea Borg, because Borg is going to go very, very, very long. And the last thing he wants to do is just be able to get in front of the Alpine and try to shut it down by that way. Simeon Neshev now looking at a podium place as the tyres start to potentially go here on David Mrs. the pole sitter. What has happened to our front row? One of them is running in third, the other running all the way down in sixth place here after getting absolutely punted down in towards the fourth corner on lap one. So really mixed tale between our two front row drivers after 10 laps. Oh, that's a mistake, and that's going to see the Williams circulate round now down into fifth. I think also Emerson Zard might have a sniff at an opportunity here, because look at that, 0.6, half a second now, 0.4 of a second, and he's into the pit lane.
Yeah, no surprises. He's decided to bail after that mistake. He thinks the tyres have completely fallen off, and that may have actually caught Misford a little bit off guard here, because I think that's probably a bit earlier than he scheduled. But that may end up awakening maybe Daniel Chinny in P2 to potentially consider, a blockade, maybe just trying to cover off that one here, as we're seeing Jake Malak coming in, and it's another front wing for the Red Bull. So it's a fresh set of hard tyres, and what is turning to be a little bit of an expensive race at the moment for Oracle Red Bull Racing, as he will now leave the pit lane. As it looks like he's actually going to get overtaken by his teammate here, and he certainly has, as Adam Qureshi has gone for another spin. Here is Jake Malak as he comes across the line now to start now his next hard stint. And, of course, now overtaken by his teammate, Keith Muscat. Back towards the front, if you don't mind, Daniel Chinny, with that 3-second time penalty, could be a little bit of a problem for him further up on top of what might be a stewarding inquiry, and another warning as well for a track extension there. I think, oh, and look at that. He's just washing out everywhere at the moment, is Daniel Chinny. He's got to dive into the pit lane here, and I've got a gut feeling he might be in a bit of trouble when it turns to the pit stops here. Here he comes then, he's going to come in, he's not going to try and overcut it, very well handled, as he will now come into the pit lane. Where is he going to come out in respect of the Williams then of Dave Misford? So he comes in, fresh set now of hard tyres. He won't go to the end of this race, I wonder, but Misford's in P6. It's a very long pit lane, is this circuit, but that amount of time that he lost, is it significant enough to get to end up being overcut here by the likes of David Misford? Here he comes then down the main straight. Where is the Ferrari? He's just leaving the pit lane, so it looks like he's managed to get no issue whatsoever. In fact, Kassar is going to get pretty close, but in the end Chinny will hold on to P4. But the amount of time that he lost just goes to show how bad those medium tyres were. This is almost certainly going to be a two-stop race as a result, unless he can nurse these tyres 24 laps, which, considering how awful those mediums look just 10 laps, could be a bit of a call, that one.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this all kind of pans out. As you say, the two-stop is potentially looking like it's the way it's going to go. The tyres are going to be struggling around here, it seems like, especially with the lateral load that's being put through them, especially going through that middle sector. Maybe a corner like this that Simeon Neshev is currently going through. Yeah, they're just not quite lasting the full amount. Drivers are seriously struggling through these sequences, but Andrea Borg is absolutely loving his time on this hard compound side. Simeon Neshev says, nope, I'm getting off these mediums. They are set for the dustbin, I think. So we'll have to see if they go on for a set of hard tyres. I suspect so, unless they decide to maybe just try another set of mediums, but I don't suspect that's going to be the way on toward the hards. And I wonder at what point are we looking at one of these hard tyres making the remainder of the race. They unfortunately again continuously going to go long here. We now look back here with Matthew Kassar. He's in a very, very good spot here after what could have been a very, very difficult night. He's turned it into a bit more of a positive here, as he now sits second behind Daniel Chinny, who's currently got being tagged along with a 3-second time penalty plus a potential 5-second for the incident on the opening lap of this race. And then we'll see there Isaac Barbara, who will be going on towards the next corner in turn 4, where the collision between Chinny and Meliak happens on lap 1. But again, he just cannot seem to find a way past Christian Kermi in their little battle for 7th and 8th here.
Yeah, we'll let the stewards make their decision on this one, as it looks like Andrea Borg is going to be coming into the pit lane, then change off of these hards. Is it another set of hards waiting for him, or is it a set of mediums? It is going to be a set of mediums for the man who definitely will not be able to get to the end of this race on those tyres, because we saw them, people washing out aggressively with just only 10 or 11 laps worth of wear on them, as Jake Malak gets a 3-second time penalty for his troubles as well. Here comes Daniel Chini then down the main straight. Of course, he's lost a bucket of time in comparison to the likes of Andrea Borg, gap around about 3.7. Now, the medium tyres are going to be the faster tyre, but for how long before the hard tyre becomes a more significantly better tyre, I wonder. Bearing in mind that the man behind him, Matthew Cassar, has got an older, harder tyre, as has Mifsud behind him as well. So Chini's race is not, all doom and gloom as it stands. It's just that the gap that he lost by starting on the medium tyre is quite significant, if we're perfectly honest. I wonder how the Haas driver is doing. Thank you very much, Mr. Director. Mind read on this one. It's hard. It's soft tyres for the Haas driver as well. The reserve driver, and surely he's going to dive into the pit lane, and he sure has Daniel Galea. Those soft tyres must feel absolutely dreadful this part in the race as he comes across the line to start the 7th lap on those. Now, it should be a set of hards to the end of this race, you would suspect. If not, another set of, it might be a double stop of a hard and a medium. We'll see, though, for Daniel Galea. Here is then the Aston Martin of Christian Kermy. He's currently following the other McLaren of Isaac Barbara. The drivers just sort of maintaining the status quo. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez tells me at the moment Andrea Borg has just managed to find his rhythm, find his mojo once again.
Yeah, I think Daniel Chini's now started to solidify himself on those medium compound tyres. But yes, he has lost about a second, so maybe even losing half a second every single lap here to the Alpine driver, which is not ideal, not what you want to hear. But again, this is a long race. There's still quite the way left to go, about 20 laps or so. So you kind of expect the unexpected here, and you just need to continue to push on here. Maybe try and make to the end of the race, but do a little bit of nursing as well. He's in a really sticky situation where he wants to go forward, but not burn the tyre too much, but not save and fall too far back when you're battling with Matthew Cassar. It's a real balancing act, I think, for the driver, for the Ferrari driver. You see that there, Borg is now put in a purple second sector, so he's going to try and absolutely burn and wreck these tyres as much as he possibly can, and then probably go on to a set of either hards for the remainder of the race, or go for a fresh set of mediums with about 10 remaining. We'll have to see how this all kind of works out. And again, fastest lap of the race, 1:18.1, and that just kind of shows his race pace. But Chini's still staying there. He's still there, about 4.5 seconds back. And again, when these medium tyres eventually kind of die off, I just wonder if how much of a chase he's going to have to go on, because that looks like a driver who's definitely making another stop. He knows those mediums will not go to the end. He's just trying to push those as hard as he possibly can.
The challenge you've also got behind, as well, is the fact that Daniel Chini, with that 3-second penalty, means that he's prospectively at the moment just holding on to P2 when you apply the penalty. But of course, the 5-second penalty that he thinks he might have on his head after that lap 1 collision with Jake Malak, the man currently down in P9, may completely change up the strategy now for the Ferrari man, second place in the title hunt. He knows he's got to finish at least P2 to have any chance in hell of potentially getting this trophy on the final race in Abu Dhabi in a week's time. So keep a very firm eye on this one here, because I do have a gut feeling that Chini's race is certainly going to be what is best described as squeaky bum time now for the next 20 laps of this race. Matthew Cassar doing a decent job as well, up in P3, managing to get the jump on Dave Misford, of course, after committing a pretty large undercut in comparison to all those around him. Now on 7-lap old hard tyres when he comes across the line. The Mercedes, look, he's going to be in a position where he's going to find himself starting to feel those tyres a little bit older, especially considering the man in front of him. And I think he even knows my battle is not with him, it's actually with the guy now behind me. And what a good way to solidify P3 as it stands if Matthew Cassar could finish in P3 against Mifsud, the pole sitter, as it looks like Simeon Neshchev getting this move done no issue on a lapped car. That is Adam Qureshi in P14. Lap 17 of 36 of this race. We're just a little bit under halfway through this race. Early indications suggesting Andrea Borg has one hand on this trophy as it stands, but let's be perfectly honest with you. The strategies are going to all come in all fair warn, probably within the next 10 or so laps. So within the next 10 laps anyway, that is for certain. Daniel Chiney just losing the rear ever so slightly, gap now 5 seconds to the man in front of him.
Yeah, indeed, this is good. This could go well. Anyway, to be honest, we'll have to see how this all kind of works out. Again, the story is being written for us in front of our eyes, and we're writing every single little chapter as we go through this incredible 8-part season of season 8 of the V1 Malta series. And again, we're going to be seeing a fantastic finish in the day to night race of Abu Dhabi. But the Mexican Grand Prix, the one we're currently focusing on here at round 7, is currently the battle between Isaac Barbara and Christian Kurmi, one of them being the McLaren team known for being the 2-time constructors champions back in season 1 and season 4, where Jake Sammet took the title with that famed working base team. As we now see Isaac Barbara, even before the DRS point, was going to take it anyway, but bit of DRS chicken being played there by Christian Kurmi keeps that Aston Martin ahead in what has been a very, very difficult season. Christian Kurmi really fighting up ahead to try and maybe equalise his best finish of 7th this season, which is exactly what he's doing. But he needs to be careful here because Jake Meliak is going to be right behind him, and that is going to be one to really keep an eye out for, because now we're seeing towards, I think he just absolutely sent him. Kurmi is wide, and Barbara is just going to try and find a way through. Meliak is also see if he can potentially just see a little bit of patience and then find a way through when these guys maybe just have an audacious moment or a moment of just relapsing judgment. But again, he's just sitting behind Barbara in that one, and not exactly where you want to be. It looks like Daniel Galea's got a penalty that time around for track limits. Now we're going to try and go to the outside here is Meliak, and that overspeed was unbelievable from the Oracle Red Bull Racing cars. A moment there for the McLaren driver. Now sees him drop to the night plate. This is all Jake Meliak. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and he is just trying to limitate the damage that was caused on the opening lap.
Yeah, great move down the inside as well. Of the final corner, they'll go side by side, but the DRS will be available for the Red Bull as he gets the move done on the Aston Martin imminently. What is the race that I would describe Jake Meliak's race as basically the exact reason why you should never give up. He's had 2 fresh front wings. He's cost Red Bull about £500,000, about 450,000 euros of damage of front wing. As a result of multiple collisions. He's got a time penalty to his name, but he's still fighting strong after colliding with someone at the lap 1. He just never gives up. Time penalty and 14 seconds back from Emerson Zarb. Currently Jake Meliak in P7. Back towards the front, by the way, Daniel Chiney is starting to close up the gap. We did think it'd be about 5 seconds, but the medium tyres are starting to now fall off. We did see this on the first stint here. Around about 5 or 6 laps, the hard tyres became the better tyre, and now Daniel Chiney gap around 3.5 seconds. Andrea Borg will start to realise that. Now he's got to sort of lift off and try not burn through the tyres too aggressively. It's all about race pace. It's about understanding how you're going to be able to stretch these tyres. Oh, a bit of a lock-up from Daniel Chiney. I think he's starting to recognise he's the faster driver, and perhaps he's just pushing, overdriving the Ferrari just a little bit. Gap now 3.5.
Yeah, he's really managed to close that down. And again, he's been in these positions many a times, and I think it's just a management at this race. But he doesn't seem like he's one of those drivers who's had a bit of he's had a decent kind of night of racing here at Mexico, but it just hasn't been fully there. It hasn't been 100% there. He set the early pace in qualifying, but he just couldn't manage to get the lap all together come the final runs in the qualifying session. Now he finds himself with an overhanging penalty from the stewards. He's now finding himself with a bit of an open opportunity here, trying to shut that gap down to the race lead here. Is he going to duck it underneath 3 seconds by the time he gets to the line? I don't know, because again, it seems that the car is just washing out once again, as Andrea Borg is enjoying a lot of clear air. And I wonder if he's going to maybe have to make kind of a reaction at this one. He's going to have to maybe go undercut here on Andrea Borg, but at what stage do you do it? You're on lap 21 here of lap 36. You probably want to be doing it in the next 4 laps here, and just maybe say to Andrea Borg here, I'm coming to undercut you. You just don't know when it's going to be. And look how much he's using in terms of the battery, because he tried to rapidly close up that gap. But he's using so much energy in doing so. He's having to just throw it into none as he heads through some of these tight corners and in the braking zone to recharge that battery. Then he's going to use as much as he possibly can. But yeah, it's all about kind of management into this part as he now tracks it down to 2.5 seconds.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I think Chini's probably overdriving the car as well. He probably could catch up with Andrea Borg if he stops trying to overdrive it and just drive it normally, because as it stands, that Ferrari is so much more faster. In just this lap alone, he's found a second on Andrea Borg, who no doubt is going to be driving into the pits surely at the end of this lap, because these tyres are done and dusted, and into the pits he will go, will the Alpine Renault, and it'll be a fresh set of hards now to the end of this race, and then Daniel Chini will take the lead of this race. Now, question: does he match Andrea Borg and move on to another set of hard tyres to the end of this race, knowing that he's going to be about 3 seconds back? Because remember, Andrea Borg on these fresh hard tyres is going to be significantly faster. So if I was Chini, I would be considering my options here and considering maybe committing to a little bit of an opportunity here. If Simeon Nechchev actually gets in front of Andrea Borg, that's actually fairly critical here, because that means that the Kick Sauber has managed to get in front, and he's also got a lap car as well of Daniel Galea as well. So the Haas will get out of the way pretty promptly, as it looks like Jane Malak has just managed to get Emerson Zab for P6. The question, though, is here, I think Emerson Zab's actually in the pits. Andrea Borg now will get as close as he can to Simeon Nechchev, and he'll try and get this move done as quickly as he possibly can. Daniel Chini will be hoping to every part of him that he loses time here to Simeon Nechchev, because that is an opportunity, as it looks like we've got a spinner, and I think it looks like Adam Qureshi's gone for another spin as well. That will be his 3rd spin of this race. It certainly was, unfortunately for him. Where is Chini? Chini is now just going through the stadium section. Now, if he's got any nous on him, he'll come into the pits here and commit to the undercut, but no, he's going to now carry on these set of hard tyres. So he's now going to hope that the time lost as a result of being on these tyres is not going to be so significant that when he gets to the end of this race, the tyre delta will come back to him. But with that 3 and a bit second gap, if I was Chini, I'm sorry, I would have covered that off immediately. Oh, we've got a spinner, and it's it's Daniel Galea on this occasion.
Yeah, I was very, very aware that could have potentially caused even a virtual safety car. For a moment there goes Aaron Dumek, who's gone over the track limit. He's got himself a penalty now, so hopefully he's not going to cause too many more left of this one. He was on for actually a 10th place for the Alpine team that currently sit down there in 3rd. Alpine have only won it once in the V1 Multi-Series history. That was back at season 6, unfortunately. That one was won by Ryan Carabot. Of course, I think it was overall a really, really good season with season 6 for me. Matthias Perugia being a part of that team. He had a fantastic season, finishing home in 2nd. And Bravia Bella, who managed to, I think, grab a win at Singapore, I believe. He had a very surprising win at some stage, I believe it was. But yeah, looking forward to this season again. Andrea Borg now sitting right behind the Sauber. That's not going to be ideal. That's not going to be what he wants. Oh, he's getting blocked in towards the 406, and he's probably shouting at his TV monitor, "Get out of the way! I've got a race to win." And I wonder if that is maybe the sign for Daniel Chini to potentially, call me crazy, stay out.
I beg to differ. I think he probably could have committed to the overtake. Is Simeon Nechchev actually going to try and defend this, I wonder? He goes then down into turn number 1. Doesn't look like he's going to make it particularly difficult for the Alpine Renault, as now the pink and blue machine manages to get the move done on the Kick Sauber. But he did lose a little bit of time to Daniel Chini on this one, but the gap's still hovering somewhere in the region of around about 19 seconds. So Daniel Chini will still fall around about 4.5 seconds back if he commits to his pit stop right now. Daniel Chinny just going through the set of S's right now. He has got Andrea Borgia a little bit of clean air now, about 6 and a bit seconds to Dave Mifsford. So where is Daniel Chinny right now? Just entering into the stadium section, I believe, is the Ferrari man. Now is your time to call. You've got to come into the pits now, surely. If you're trying your hardest to consider track position, then later down the line, you've got to consider it. He's overdriving the car again, is Daniel Chinny, and once again decides to carry on. I really don't think this is a good strategy call from the man looking to try and take this championship with 3 points. Currently the difference as it stands, as Matthew Cassar has decided to make that leap and has now pitted. I still don't think Chinny's making the right decision staying out. He should have pitted.
Yeah, I think that's it's so intriguing. I think, you know, there's so many different ways to take this. Andrea Borgia going and setting the fastest lap, so it will be a very difficult thing to overcome. But looking at kind of the gaps here, I think it's about 11 seconds. So yeah, Andrea Borgia is going to have to try and overcome a second a lap to try and track down Daniel Chinny. If that is, you know, the way to go, it might even be possible, because it's very difficult to try and chase down a second and a half. Adam Koreshi is retired from.
Oh, he's out.
He's retired in the garage, so that will cause absolutely nothing there for that. Well, Christian Kurmi is having a little bit of a tussle once again with Isaac Barbara as they head their way on towards the back straight. He'll open the DRS, he'll stay to the right hand side and glide his way past, and also Emerson Zard will dive up the inside of the McLaren. Will he try and get that move on the working base team? He hops the curve and not quite there, still sits on the outside. Will he have a look in towards turn number 6? He decides to back out of that one. The team from Faenza really only fighting with one singular car. Looks like Efron Tabone hasn't been able to make it to the last 4 rounds again. That yellow flag is still for the ghosting car of Adam Koreshi, so completely ignore that. We're still racing here, and again they are currently still working away on this one.
I still don't believe that Daniel Chinny's decided to stay out. So unless he's now saying, I'm actually doing a one stop, if he decides to pit again, he's actually going to find himself somewhere in the region of around about 13 seconds behind, about 11 seconds behind Andrea Borgia when he leaves the pit lane. And that is just going to be so critical for the man who is looking to try and continue in this good form. But he's overdriving this Ferrari, which is only going to burn through his tyres, burn through his DRS, and leave him vulnerable, especially with the 3-second time penalty. And of course, remember, a potential looming penalty from the stewards after his collision earlier on with Jake Malak, the man currently in P6 and still holding strong at the moment. I've got to give credit to the Red Bull. He hasn't given up, and he's actually still on for some decent points here tonight, is the Red Bull. But here is Daniel Chinny. Is he finally going to pit? Is he finally going to do it? No, once again, he's staying out. Now I'm asking the question, is he committing to a one-stop?
Oh, that's what I was thinking. You know, this is what I was thinking the entire time, because, you know, look at the gap there. Add those two up, unless we can go to an entire kind of
Gap to leader, please, Director.
That would be very useful. Just having a look, so I think it was about 14 seconds. It's still about 14 seconds. So, you know, Chinny is going pretty well on those tyres. He's still galloping away like the clappers. And again, it doesn't seem like Andrea Borgia is really closing that gap down. So, as I said, he's potentially still going for that for that one stop. And again, it's still very much possible. You just got to survive and not, you know, hand over a second a lap.
In my experience, if you're now on 15 lap old hard tyres on this particular game around Mexico, they are around about 50% worn. So he has now got to go another 9 laps with 50% worn tyres that are probably adding around about 3 or 4% each lap. If you take that all into the equation, 9, 18, 27, 36, he's going to be well within puncture territory at the end of this race, will Daniel Chinny. And he will also find that those tyres are going to be falling completely off a cliff, considering a five. But again, remember, perspective, we don't know what the stewards are going to say. A 5-second penalty potentially for the collision with Jake Milak, as well as the 3 seconds for track extension, as well as the fact that he has also track extended at least once since receiving that penalty. He is going to be skating on thin ice when it comes to finishing this race as the winner after all penalties are applied. Andrea Borg is getting closer and closer. He's going to consider his overtake against Mifsud. Now, Mifsud has got his own battle with Kassar for this championship. He's not looking to welcome himself into the main title hunt. So I have a gut feeling that Mifsud's not really going to put too much pressure here on the championship leader, because, of course, as it stands so far, he's going to be outscoring Matthew Kassar by a couple of positions, 3rd and 5th respectively, when Andrea Borg does commit to this overtake. So answers on a postcard here, folks. It looks like to me Chinny is going to commit to the one stop if that is the situation. Well, hold your breath, guys, because this one could be a little bit squeaky bum time, as I said, for the Ferrari man of Daniel Chinny.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be a hotly contested battle. You know, I have no idea which way this could go. It could go so many different ways. I think that battle with David Miss is going to be very important, and look how easy that move was done. Now we get to see a full perspective of this on towards lap 29 of 36 here at the Mexican Grand Prix. Daniel Chinny still continues to lead. 12 seconds is the gap here, and you do not want to be handing over anything more than a second. But Andrea Borg in free air is going to be absolutely romping up the road and see if he can potentially do anything here. But here comes David Misford here to see if he can potentially maybe just nab something, but it doesn't seem like that's the way it's going to go for him. So we'll have to see if Andrea Borg can continue out on this one. Again, that's going to be a very interesting gap to just keep an eye out for, because with the penalties we're all talking about, I do believe it will equivalent up to 8 seconds, it seems, because of course we had 3 seconds to the we had 3 seconds due to the track limits. We had the potential penalty, again, if that's 10 seconds, that's going to be completely done out of the waters. He may even fall down to 3rd at this rate, but he's going to have to hope it's a 5-second time penalty. If he is going to get one, that would equivalent to 8 seconds here. So that's going to be kind of the mood on this one. Again, he's handed over a second here to Andrea Borg, which is going to be one to really keep an eye out for. So I think this gap is going to be about probably less than a second and a half by the time the check flag is out here. This will be one to really keep an eye out for. Simeon Nechev currently in 4th. They're still ahead of Matthew Kassar here. So will Kassar try and make a move down in towards the turn number 1? I think he's a little bit too far back. He's not got another energy recovery system to play with either, so he's having to really fight and hunt down that Sauber on pure pace alone whilst he recharges that energy recovery system battery. But on towards turn number 4, he's gaining. He's on the youngest set of tyres in that top 7, and I think he's going to go for the move here down towards turn number 4. The Sauber side's wide. He's going to try the outside. The rear oversteps, but he's just not quite there unless he decides to look in 6th. That doesn't happen.
Right, so answers here for you then is the situation report is as follows. Daniel Chinny still leads this race. Gap is around about 10 seconds between him and Andrea Borg. He isn't losing a bucket of time at the moment, but the tyres are going to fall off a cliff within the next few laps. Then he has got to make sure that he stays within around 8 seconds if he wants to be comfortably the race victory here tonight. He then will have to hope, if it's under 8 seconds but above 3, that he will then be at the hands of the stewards, and the stewards will just deem it as a sort of lap 1 incident between him and Jake Milak earlier on. Otherwise, if he gets it less than 3 seconds, Andrea Borg is extending his championship lead for the first time in a few rounds to 10 points in the title, as Matthew Kassar is still fighting with the kick Sauber of Simeon Nechev. Now, this is again characteristic of Kassar. He keeps overusing his ERS, and he's finding himself to be hemorrhaging time. As a result, he's going to try and go for it going into turn number 1 now. Will Kassar, they'll go side by side through the next couple of corners. Will the kick Sauber continue to defend it? He's certainly looking for it. They bang wheels going pulling through into turn number 3. Oh, and there goes the spin out there from Simeon Nechchev. He's in the wall as a result of that as well. So there is a question here for potentially Matthew Kassar. Was that a little bit too aggressive? I wonder between the pair of them. But Nechchev on 18-lap-old hards looks like he just lit up the rears after getting into a racing scenario with Kassar. And that goes to show how hard it is to race now on these now aged hard tyres. Gap now 9 seconds between Borges and Daniel Chinny. He's losing around about a second lead lap with 4 to go when they come across the line. But of course, remember, these hard tyres are going to degrade particularly quickly from this point onwards. Lap 32 of 36, advantage still in Chinny's hands, but I think it's going to start slipping very quickly.
Yeah, I think so too. This is going to be one that's going to be really, really high stakes here. That little battle between Nechchev and Kassar. Yeah, I think that's going to be one for the stewards to really have a look into. That's going to be thoroughly investigated. I'm sure there will be results posted at a later date. Sometimes we do have to delay our results posts due to ongoing potential penalties, and I'm sure this one will not be one that's going to be posted up in the morning. I think there's going to be quite the while before waiting for the official confirmation and the social media post. You can follow us all at Velocity Esports Racing. But in comes Simeon Nechchev to make that change of going to the front wing, on the brand new front wing for the Sauber driver. And where is he? How far is he going to drop? Because I think it may just be 7th unless he falls behind that battle of Barbara and Kurmi. I hope he doesn't for his sake and Sauber's sake, but he does seem like he is going to fall behind her. And there goes Christian Kurmi, who's going to go up into 7th after all of that.
Yeah, strong battle continues to occur back at the front gap now. Another second has been taken out by Andrea Borges as the gap is now 7.5 to Daniel Chinny as he comes across the start-finishing line to start his 33rd tour of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. It's looking very much likely here that Daniel Chinny is going to hold on to the race victory if these tyres don't fall off. But it's a big word, this but, isn't it? It's all dependent on whether those tyres do go bang or not. There goes Simeon Nechchev, gets the move done, no issue whatsoever on Isaac Barber on the fresh soft tyre. The soft tyres will now go the distance, no issue. Looking like he's going to get the fastest lap of this race. Is a bit of a consolidation as well for Simeon Nechchev in the kick Sauber. They're on their own little scrap in the championship as well to get to above the midfield. Oh, look at that, traction straight out of that corner, no issue whatsoever, straight up to P7 for Simeon Nechchev. Gap 17 seconds. Jake Coles, I think that is going to be the highest position he's going to be able to score here tonight, Simeon Nechchev. Lap 33 of 36 for these as we go back up to the front 2, if you don't mind. Gap now 7 seconds. He's found another half a second as Andrea Borges. He's now within the touching distance of a 3 second plus the 5 second penalty if Daniel Chinny is found guilty of the collision with Jake Malak on lap 1. But, and it's a massive but, that is all determined by the stewards. And that will determine how strong this title hunt is going to be going into our final race in Abu Dhabi in a week's time. Of course, give us all a follow on all our relevant social medias for this one, because V1 Malta is going to come to an explosive conclusion next week. That is for certain. One thing is, though, for note, is the gap is now 6 seconds as he comes across the start, the 34th of 36. Andrea Borges is certainly getting extremely close now to Daniel Chinny. I think these tyres have fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, they're starting to just fall off that little bit, and now we're starting to fall into the same zone there. Daniel Galea retired from this session.
Retired on the track as well.
Has he retired on the track? Oh, you can't really do that in league racing. That's kind of quite frowned upon, in fact. So it does seem like that for the moment now. Hopefully that doesn't cause any form of issue. The yellow flag has been pulled back in. They'll be continuing to go out, but at the moment it looks like Daniel Chinny will lead from 4 points over Andrea Borges going into that championship finale. And I think Mifsud will be in there with 25 points back, but again that's going to be very, very difficult. 1 minute 17.7 from Simeon Nechchev on those soft compound tyre. Again, looks like Matthew Kassar I think will drop down to 4th to the SEMA again. Borges is now starting to slide around on those hard compound tyres.
Yeah, Borges is really not finding any comfort at all now on these 13-lap old tyres. If he's struggling, what's this man feeling at the moment? As it stands so far, he'll be taking the lead in the championship. But it's all about how these tyres last. Chucks the car through the right-hander, through the left. How is this tyres going to feel? It's looking like he's just very gingerly getting on the power. He's really just wanted to make sure that front right tyre is looking horrible at the moment. Is that Ferrari? So the question is, A, will he be able to keep the distance to 3 seconds between him and Borges? And 2, well, B, 2, whatever. The point is that he's going to also be worried about a potential puncture, because I think he's now definitely going to be in the 70s when it comes to his tyre degradation gap. Now 5 seconds, but not falling as quick as Andrea Borges would like, as Matthew Cassar continues to overdrive his Mercedes to try and stay within touching distance of, guess who? David Misford in their own little scrap for P3 in the championship. This is fabulous.
Yeah, this is superb stuff. And just having a look at the gap here between the leaders, 4.4 seconds, as Daniel Cini will now look to go around that last corner. He has to try and not hand over a second here to Andrea Borges, otherwise that will secure the victory for the Alpine driver. This dude, proper spicy. I've thrown a couple bits of chilies in there for extras as well. I'm sure that will make for a lovely meal before we then have our full buffet in Abu Dhabi. But again, it seems like Andrea Borges is just going to try and push on as much as he possibly can. Late stop here for David Misford here. The Williams now makes his way into the pit lane. He's going to now drop. He's going to put on the soft compound tyre, and what a time to do it as well. That could leave him in a bit of a spot of trouble. He will fall down to 4th, and I think he'll find himself out of the championship hunt as well. So I'll have to do the calculation on this one. And we're on our last lap here. Look at that gap, just hovering around 3 seconds.
I think the reason why Misford had to pit there is because he got a puncture on the penultimate corner. So of all times to get a puncture, that was well crafted indeed. Gap is 3.2. Has he got DRS from a back marker, I wonder? I don't think he has on this occasion, but he's got to do a massive rush here, and he's going to end up track extending as well to try and maximise as much as he can. The gap is 2.9, so it's all going to be about whether Andrea Borges makes a mistake now. It's all going to be down to just tenths of a second after penalties are applied. The checkered flag is now waving. Daniel Cini will take the checkered flag, but the question is as if he's going to end up holding on to the position. I don't think he will, and the championship leader has extended his gap to just 10 points now as they go into the final race of this season. Matthew Cassar will come across the line in a very good P3 as he extends his lead over this man, David Misford, who gets a puncture on the final, entering onto the final lap. He has to switch onto a set of soft tyres to go to the end of this race. He'll be bitterly disappointed that it ended this way in this circumstance, but his battle for P3 is not over, because it will go all the way to the final race in Abu Dhabi next week. Here is Emerson Zaba. Great performance from the Racing Bull himself. On 14-lap-old hard tyres, he will finish in a very respectable P5. And what a valiant effort from this man as well. Jake Malak, he gets taken out on turn 1. He's caused about 450,000 euros worth of front wing for Red Bull, and he still finishes in a very respectable P6. It may be P7 though when he comes across the line. It won't be. He does hold on to P6 because Simeon Neshchev will finish in P7. There's still a little scrap happening. This is the battle for P8 here between Isaac Barber and the other Red Bull of Keith Muscat, but in the end they will end their race in the status quo of 8th and 9th place respectively to round off our final results for this race. But I say final, they're extremely preliminary, because there is definitely going to be some penalties that will be applied. One thing we do know though is at the end of this race, our championship leader has extended his lead by 7 points. He's now up to 10.
Indeed. So that's that will now mean the championship contenders. Well, I think it was about 7 at the start of this one. It now goes down to 2. Andrea Borges to Daniel Cini. Who's going to come out on top in under the floodlights in Abu Dhabi? Will be there, will be square, I say. The champagne will be sprayed on the podium, but I think there'll be a couple of happy faces. Some of them, I think, on the podium will not be so happy. Matthew Cassar, his championship hopes and title dreams have ended. Daniel Cini, again, had that kind of potential penalty coming his way, has his championship hopes ended.
That's a critical one, isn't it? Remember, there may also be a 5-second penalty that needs to be applied to Daniel Chinny, but that will not matter. So he'll hope that maybe he could get a 3-second penalty removed. Either way, he finishes in P2 from this one from Kassar, Dave Potts, Milanish, Jake, Karl Simoneshchev, Smooth, Operator himself, and then Barre, Chris Kick, Ron Skids, Rocket, Daniel, and then Kosheki with the DNF. Wow. So what is the situation? Well, the permutations are pretty clear as a result of that one. Now it's 10 points, the gap between the pair of them. Just simply on count back, if there was to be a situation where Chinny finishes in P1 and then our man Andrea Borg finishes in P3 and they still finish tied on points, the champion will still be Borg, I believe. So in that scenario, it's all pretty well clear cut for the likes of Daniel Chinny. He needs to finish on the podium, preferably P1. And the fact of the matter is that you need to see someone who very rarely is not on the podium. Andrea Borg not finished on the podium at the next round, our final round, of course, in this V1 Malta series for season 8 in Abu Dhabi. So it's looking very much like if one hand is now back on the trophy here for Andrea Borg, but it's not all plain sailing. We saw that over in Saudi Arabia.
You're right on that one. There's so many different ways Abu Dhabi can be played out, but just think of it. Andrea Borg now. Apart from that retirement in Jeddah, he has a 100% podium record. That's unbelievable from him. Daniel Chinny has had 2 times out of the podium places, plus his DNF back at Zandvoort, where he was leading from the race. Do you think that Daniel Chinny will be looking at that moment thinking, if I didn't retire on the spot there, I would be leading the championship?
2 runner-up spots in a row as well in the V1 Malta Series for Daniel Chinny, if that ends up happening as well, which would be bitterly disappointing for the man in the Ferrari. One thing we do know, though, is that will all come to a conclusion next time out, of course, in Abu Dhabi. It is going to be an absolute cracker. Of course, it won't be happening next week, actually. We're on a week break, so it will be the following week on December 1st for our final round of this championship going into the Christmas season. We will be taking a trip back over to the Middle East for the United Arab Emirates Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Should be an absolute cracker. And we will be wrapping up and crowning our champion of the V1 Malta Series once again. Thanks for watching. Should be an absolute cracker in a couple of weeks' time. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Ta-ra.